My fiance, who is 33 years old, and I, who am 30 years old, have been together for nearly 3 years. He's the most loving, supportive, and compassionate man I've ever met. He always sees the best in people and has been there for me through everything. I love him so much and want to spend my life with him. While visiting my family for a week, he used my laptop for work a few times. A few days ago, I opened my laptop and I noticed he hadn't logged out of his Google account. I went to log him out, but instead I impulsively started going through his search history. The reason for this goes back to a little over a year ago before we got engaged, when we hit a rough patch. I was hit with depression and struggled for months, barely able to get out of bed, working from home, and gaining 30 pounds. During that time, I wasn't as present in our relationship. I pushed him away and criticized him, all because I was projecting from fear that he'd leave me. Still, despite that, he was very supportive and checked in on me daily. Eventually, I sought help, got on medication, started therapy, and slowly regained my energy. I got back into the gym, lost the weight, and started reconnecting with friends. Our relationship improved as I began to feel like myself again. Things were going well until about 5 months ago when he took me to a potluck his company was having. I had already met most of his colleagues at his company Christmas party back in December. One of those colleagues was a woman in her late 30s, very fit, single, and well-dressed. I didn't think anything of it at the time other than they seemed like good work buddies and he enjoyed working with her. But at the potluck, he was acting very tense and tried to avoid her. Afterwards, of course, I asked what that was about. And he hesitantly confessed that during our rough patch, he had developed feelings for her and had lunch with her a few times. He assured me nothing happened and that once he realized what he was doing, he distanced himself and focused on our relationship and being a better partner. That revelation hurt deeply, especially during a time when I already felt insecure about my body and feared he'd leave me. Having been cheated on before, my mind went to the worst-case scenario. He felt guilty and gave me access to his phone, computer, and work chats to prove nothing else had happened. After some time, we worked through it and things between us felt stable again. But I couldn't stop overthinking. I kept wondering if there was more to the story. I tried to trust him, but old wounds and paranoia crept in. This man Googles everything because he overthinks everything, so when I saw an opportunity to check his search history, I did. I filtered back to that time period when we had that rough patch, hoping to find something that would either confirm or dispel my doubts. His searches from that time were things like, how to stop having feelings for someone. Is it cheating to have a crush while in a relationship? How to stay faithful to my girlfriend, and how to distance yourself from a coworker. These were searches he made over the course of 5 weeks. There were no signs he cheated or wanted to be with her. His searches showed he was actively trying to fight those feelings. I was relieved and felt bad for doubting him. But then I found searches that crushed me. My girlfriend got fat, and I'm not attracted to her. I love my girlfriend, but I find her ugly. Girlfriend doesn't take care of herself. Want to leave my girlfriend because she's fat and ugly, and my girlfriend's body grosses me out. These were sprinkled throughout the time I was struggling, about 10 of those searches. Some were within the same day after we hung out, and some of them were on days he was with me. He visited lots of Reddit pages where men talked about how they found their wives ugly after they gained weight. I also found that he didn't like my cat at the time because she meows too much and won't leave him alone. I don't believe that I was ugly even after that weight gain. I'm very feminine. I still wore makeup and nice outfits whenever I could get myself to go out. Despite being heavier, I still put effort into upkeeping my appearance. None of this seems to reflect how he feels about me now. He can't keep his hands off me. He constantly tells me how gorgeous I am, and our intimacy life is amazing. He also plays with my cat all the time now. He's more affectionate with me and my cat now more than ever, and he makes me feel loved every day. He even got into therapy himself to address his severe anxiety and self-esteem issues. But I can't look at him the same way now. Knowing what he thought of me during my most vulnerable time has shattered something inside me. He thought I was fat and ugly, when I trusted him to see past my weight gain, and when he would say he finds me beautiful. What really stings is that he's not exactly the most handsome man in the world, and is certainly not in the best shape. He's gained weight throughout our relationship, and his hygiene is subpar. He'll wear the same underwear for 2 days in a row, smells sometimes, and brushes his teeth maybe once a day. But I never once judged him for that, or thought of him as any less attractive. Sure, I would have intrusive thoughts about that stuff from time to time, but I easily dismissed them because I love him, and he's incredibly handsome to me with a beautiful heart. Now I can't stop wondering, what happens when I inevitably gain weight again, whether from pregnancy or aging? Will he see me as fat and ugly again? Will he have eyes for another woman again? Will he have the strength to push those feelings away and distance himself next time? I don't know how to process this. I'm talking to my therapist about it, but I can't let go of the fact that during my lowest point, he saw me in such an awful light. I don't want to break up with him. I love him so much, and he treats me like a queen. I also can't talk to him about this. If he knew I saw those searches, as well as some very personal ones regarding his own struggles, he'd be mortified, and he might even end things between us. I would have never known about this if I hadn't invaded his privacy like that. And I'm deeply ashamed of doing it. But I'm also kind of glad I did, because even though he saw me in that light, he proved to be a faithful man and prioritized me. In a way, I feel very lucky, but I'm hurt and worried that he will still see me that way at times throughout our relationship. I'm self-conscious around him now and no longer let him see me naked. How can I move past this and feel safe with him again? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I feel like these were his internal thoughts he was trying to work out. His internal thoughts were incredibly unkind, but his behavior while having those thoughts was not. You said he checked in on you, and even though you were pushing him away, he remained there steadfast and loving. That means a lot. We all have rude thoughts. Learning to not voice them or act on them is the part that takes effort. My dad always told us that love is an action word. You can say you love someone 1,000 times, but if your actions don't reflect that, do you really love that person? Your fiance had some awful, shallow thoughts, but his actions showed that he loved you deeply. Please don't let internet searches that he never acted on fester and destroy the confidence you had in your relationship. Comment 2. Why is no one concerned about how OP's husband will react if she gets pregnant or when they obviously grow old together? Is he going to develop feelings for someone else every time and inevitably have an affair? Do you want to spend the rest of your life worrying if your husband is going to cheat on someone else if you gain an extra pound of weight? I really don't understand these comments saying OP is wrong. They are insane to me. He literally had feelings for someone else because OP gained some weight and went out to lunch with her, all while treating her like nothing was wrong. Like what? Now for the update. It's been almost 2 days since I found that search history on my fiance's phone. It feels like a week. I spent the last couple of days avoiding him, just trying to process everything. My brain is a chaotic mess, and I can't even think straight. So I just kept my distance. He noticed I was being all quiet and stuff and asked if I was okay. Like, bro, how can I be okay? But I told him I was just tired. Honestly, he probably thought I was just being a moody girl or something, and he accepted it without pushing further. My therapist suggested I have an open conversation with him, so I was planning to do that. I guess if I didn't, I'd be back at square one and scrolling through the search history again, which I really didn't want to do. My parents invited us over for dinner to celebrate my mom's birthday. My mom makes this really good pasta and cheesecake, so I agreed to go, thinking it would be good to keep things normal. During dinner, my brother brought up relationships and asked how we were doing. Like, is that really something to bring up at my mom's birthday dinner? My mom then mentioned how she hoped to see us engaged soon. I mean, she isn't wrong, but how can you say that when you know we're all over the place? After dinner, we all moved to the living room for cake. My fiance offered to help my mom clean up in the kitchen, and she accepted. Then my sister casually mentioned how she saw my fiance and the coworker together at a work event. Like, could you not? I asked her what she meant, and she shrugged, saying they looked friendly. My fiancé returned, and the mood shifted instantly. I could feel it. My brother joked about how he'd need to watch out for my fiancé stealing his moves. It's funny, but also not funny. After dessert, I went to the bathroom to gather my thoughts. I overheard my parents in the hallway talking about how happy they were for us. Like, really? I stepped out and saw my fiancé looking at his phone and frowning. I asked him what was wrong, and he said it was just work stress. Yeah, right. We left my parents' house, and he tried to hold my hand, but I pulled away. He asked if I was upset, and I said I was just tired. That night I couldn't sleep, and I decided to confront him in the morning. I woke up early and found him in the kitchen making breakfast. He was flipping pancakes and had eggs on the stove, and I sat down and told him we needed to talk. His expression turned serious, and he nodded. I brought up the search history and my concerns about his feelings. He tried to reassure me, but I pushed him to be honest about the coworker. He admitted they had become close, but insisted nothing happened. I don't know if I believe that, but what else could I do? He took a deep breath and said he wanted to prove his commitment to me. He suggested we plan a weekend getaway to reconnect, which I thought was a great idea. Then he surprised me by revealing he had already booked a cabin in the mountains. Like, how did he even do that? The trip is next weekend, and I'm hopeful it will help us move past this conflict. We both agreed to be transparent during the trip, which is a must. Today, we went for a walk and he held my hand. I let him, and it felt nice. We talked about our favorite movies, and he asked me to make a list of ones I wanted to watch with him. We haven't done that in ages, so I think it'll be fun. It was nice to enjoy each other's company again. I'm excited about this trip, but I'm also scared. What if we don't come back the same? What if we do? Edit. We went on the trip. It was beautiful. We talked a lot. I met his coworkers. The past is still there, but it's fading. We're moving forward. I love him. Am I the idiot for pressuring my boyfriend into proposing and then taking a break when he finally did? Together for 3 years. I made it clear from the start I wanted kids and marriage eventually, and he was on the same page. As we've gotten older, eventually doesn't cut it, and I've asked him several times for a timeline of when he sees us getting engaged or married. I do not want a big wedding. I would prefer no wedding at all. I just want to be married before having children. Originally, he said he still had some things to work out personally, so I let it be for a few months. When I followed up again, I told him I needed him to take some time to think about a realistic timeline and let me know so I could figure out if that worked for me. Since then, I have followed up several times, and each time he's just said, I don't think about these things, and I'm not a planner. As if we hadn't had previous conversations where he committed to thinking about it. Last month, we had this talk again, and I finally felt like he had heard me. He said he understood what I was asking for and agreed to give it some thought in a practical context over the next few weeks. I felt so sure that he meant what he said that I finally felt peace of mind, and we had the most relaxed and happy month after that. Yesterday, I finally followed up and asked him whether he'd given any thought to the timeline question. And again, he hit me with, I don't think about these things, as if he hadn't specifically agreed to think about it this time. The response truly broke my heart, and it led to a very long, very emotional conversation where I opened up about my fears, about how I worry we will never get married, and how I worry I'm giving up my fertile years and will miss the chance to have kids. He got upset and asked why we can't just discuss this in a normal way without me always getting so upset. But I'm upset because I've brought it up so many times now, and each time it's like we're back at square one. He then mentioned that he's thought about how and where he's going to propose. But again, that's not what I'm after. All I've been asking for this whole time is a timeline, which he still can't give me. I'd specifically been avoiding bringing this up again because I felt like if I brought it up too many times, I'd run the risk of him feeling pressured to marry me. When again, all I'm asking for is a timeline so I can understand whether or not we're compatible. Well, that's how it feels now. After all these conversations and now a very emotionally charged argument about it, I now feel as though any proposal I receive would be a shut up proposal and not something he actually wants to do, which makes me think the whole thing is doomed. These conversations turn me into someone I don't want to be. I feel like a nag, a harpy, a pathetic girl crying because a guy won't marry her. Outside of this one issue, the relationship is great. He is truly my dream partner. He's caring, sweet, thoughtful, fun, smart, and lovely. But the constant refusal to work with me on this has made me feel so rejected and hurt. On one hand, the idea of throwing away an otherwise perfect relationship with the man of my dreams over this one thing seems ridiculous. On the other hand, I'm so scared I'm wasting my fertile years with someone who has no intention of actually having a marriage and kids with me. I'm completely at a loss for what to do. Do I just give up on the idea of marriage and kids altogether and just be happy I found a good guy? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. A bigger problem here is how he discusses these things. Deflecting, biding time, making hollow promises, and then doubling back. Almost approaching gaslighting territory in the process, by pretending conversations didn't happen. He even started to make it seem as though you are emotional and unreasonable, despite him clearly being the source of it due to how inconsistent he is. So it isn't just a marriage problem. It is also a communication problem. It is also a respect and care problem, given how easily and readily he will make you feel self-conscious as a way to derail discussion. And it's working. You are being so harsh on yourself, despite him clearly being unreasonable, unfair, and outright gross. I think you are idealizing him given that. You have made yourself the one in the wrong, wondering if you're reasonable or not, when a lot of how he handled this is outright toxic. Comment 2. The whole thing is doomed. He is not sweet. He is not thoughtful. He is not lovely. You are wasting your time with him, and he is doing everything in his power to manipulate you into wasting your fertile years trying to get him to commit. That is a horrible thing to do to any human being, let alone someone who is your romantic partner. He is not a good guy. When you find one, please update us. Now, for the update, my last post was a few weeks ago about how I was losing hope in my relationship. I had a conversation with my partner about marriage and kids, and nothing got resolved. He just doesn't seem ready for that step. I really thought I was going to have to end the relationship, but I figured I should give it a little more time and try to distract myself. So, I went to my parents' anniversary dinner last week. They always celebrate special occasions at this really nice restaurant, and they were excited to see me. They had decorated the table with flowers and candles, and it was really sweet of them. My sister Kate showed up with a new boyfriend, and he was actually pretty charming. The atmosphere was light and fun, with a lot of laughter and clinking glasses. It was nice to not think about my issues for a little bit. Then my dad made a toast about love and commitment, which was a little hard to listen to, but I tried to be present. He jokingly asked how he and my mom had been married for decades, and then he turned to me and my partner, asking when we planned to get engaged. My partner shifted a little in his seat, but didn't answer. It was awkward, but I just smiled and changed the subject. I didn't want to ruin the night. Kate's boyfriend then said that he thinks engagements should happen sooner rather than later. I could see my partner getting annoyed, and the atmosphere got a little tense. After dinner, I went to the bathroom, and I overheard my sister and her boyfriend talking. He said that if you truly love someone, you don't wait around for a proposal. I felt really upset again. I didn't want to hear that, especially not from someone who just got engaged. My partner was distant and distracted during dessert, and the moment we left, I confronted him. I asked him why he was so uncomfortable during dinner, and he said he felt pressured by my family's expectations. That really frustrated me. We ended up arguing in the parking lot about our future. He said that I make him feel trapped, and then he stormed off to his car, leaving me standing there. The next day, I got a message from him saying he needed space to think. I don't know what that means. Then my brother, who was in town for work, video called me a few days later. He told me he saw my partner at a bar, and he seemed upset. I just have no idea what was going on in his head. Last week, he reached out to meet up for coffee, and I figured we should talk things out. So we met up at a coffee shop, and he handed me a small box. He said he wanted to talk, so I opened the box and found a ring in there. I was confused by the sudden gesture, and he explained that he wanted to propose, but he felt pressured to do so. I was processing all of that when my phone buzzed with a text from Kate. She shared that she and her boyfriend were engaged, and I was just shocked. My partner and I left the coffee shop without any resolution, and now we are both dealing with unexpected pressure. Mini update. After my partner proposed, we both needed time to think. I spoke with my family and learned they had no idea he would propose. My sister's engagement announcement was unexpected for everyone. My partner and I decided to take a break to evaluate our relationship and future. Am I the idiot for telling my husband to get lost after finding out about his affair with Alex? Me, a 35-year-old woman, and my husband, a 35-year-old man, met through a mutual friend and have been together for 9 years. We got married and bought a house 2 years ago. He wasn't the most romantic guy, but we got along fine through the years. The only thing I can't stand is his concept of time. On one of our dates, he was late by over 2 hours. It just so happened that that date was the one I planned to introduce him to my sister. Obviously, my sister didn't have a good first impression of him. When we were dating, he was getting his PhD, and I was already working at that time. We would make plans to have dinner every couple of days. I let him pick out most of the places that we ate at, as he is a picky eater. I usually get off work at 5 p.m. He would come pick me up and take me to dinner, but more often than not, he would be late in picking me up. Once, I waited for him in the office until 9 p.m. Even now, he is still often late. I usually just walk around the city center while waiting for him. 2 years ago, we got married and started living together. Everything was fine. I knew there would be some adjusting to do, as both of us had only been living with our families in an Asian household. Over the 2 years, every time he does the chores, he always makes some small remark, like why do I wear all those delicate items, such as cardigans and silk, that can't be machine washed? To avoid any conflict, I now only wear those when it is my day to do laundry. But those things that I pointed out, he usually just ignores. Like if there is urine on the toilet bowl, at least use the bidet to wash it out, instead of letting it become a stain and waiting for the once-a-week toilet cleaning. Since the start of this year, he has started to be a bit unbearable and paranoid. He would always ask who I am with, why I went out for dinner with my group of colleagues instead of having dinner with him, and why I hang out with my sister so much, even when I have a husband. We both have access to each other's phones. I usually use his phone to check some of our membership information and bills, but I tell him every time I'm using it. Lately, I found out he has been secretly looking through my phone and deleting texts, mostly those from male colleagues or friends. At one point, I even suspected that he installed spyware on my phone. Anyway, fast forward to the huge fight we had 2 weeks ago. I pointed out everything I said before that he chose to ignore and refused to change, particularly his concept of time issue. I said I could easily just move out and divorce him. We didn't speak to each other for a week after that. At this point, I am seriously considering leaving him, as I cannot see myself living like this for the next few decades with him. Now for an update. This week, I began to notice that he has changed. He is doing all the chores and addressing all those things I pointed out that he previously ignored. He is making plans with me and being on time. The change is so drastic that it makes me very uncomfortable and makes me wonder if the change is genuine or if he will revert back once I give in. Does anyone have any experience like this? How do you deal with it? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Deleting your texts and demanding to know who you are with sounds hurtful to me. I think you need to still follow through with the divorce. I don't think he changed because he cares about you. I think there is something else going on. Maybe this is all about optics. If you get divorced, it could embarrass him. That being said, go ahead and do it. He has treated you so poorly for so many years. You deserve better. Comment 2. To be honest, it just sounds like love bombing. He is controlling and hurtful in deleting your texts and demanding to know where you are all the time. Once he thinks he has placated you, he will just go back to his old ways. Please be aware he may sabotage your birth control too, so be very careful. I think you should divorce him. Now for the update. I'm facing divorce because my husband cheated, and I have no regrets about what I did. 2 weeks have passed since the big fight and the silent treatment. Honestly, I was kind of getting used to the silence. It was peaceful. But then my husband started doing all this stuff without me even asking, like chores and even like cleaning up after dinner. I was like, what the hell is going on? Is this a new model of husband that I didn't know about? So I figured, let's test this out, right? I suggested we go to a family dinner for my aunt's birthday, and he agreed so fast, like he was waiting for a chance to leave the house. And he actually showed up on time for the first time in years. I even checked my watch to make sure it wasn't broken. At the dinner, it was my parents, aunt, uncle, and cousins. All of us sitting around the table, talking, laughing. I mean, he was being super friendly, engaging in conversation, laughing at my dad's lame jokes. And then my cousin, out of nowhere, mentions how she's heard about their recent issues. Like, what? How does she know about that? Apparently, she had a chat with my sister who expressed concerns about the husband. I was just over it at that point, so I dismissed her comments and tried to keep the night positive. After dinner, we all moved to the living room for cake and presents. It was a nice distraction. My husband even offered to help clear the table. Like, what the hell is wrong with him? Later that week, he suggested a weekend getaway. Said it would be good for us. I thought, okay, let's see where this goes. We arrived at a cabin in the woods, and he seemed relaxed. No weird questions, no checking my phone. It was kind of nice. But on the second night, he got this late-night text and stepped outside to take the call. I heard bits and pieces of the conversation. It was all hushed tones, but I definitely caught something about keeping it quiet. The next morning, I casually asked about the call, and he brushed it off, saying it was work-related. My heart sank, but I said nothing. While he was in the shower, I decided to look at his phone. Yeah, I know, not my proudest moment, but desperate times. I found a bunch of messages from this contact named Alex. The messages were like way too intimate for just a work relationship. One of them said, "Can't wait to see you again." I was just like, no freaking way. That evening, I suggested we invite my sister over for dinner to discuss some family stuff. He agreed, totally oblivious to what I was planning. When my sister arrived, I casually brought up the text messages while cooking. I could see her look of concern, but she encouraged me to confront my husband directly. During dinner, I asked him about his Alex conversations, and the guy just went off. He got super defensive, insisting it was just a coworker. My sister jumped in, asking about the late-night calls, and that's when things got really heated. He stormed out, claiming he was being unfairly accused. I wasn't done yet. I caught him trying to leave in his car and blocked the driveway. We had this heated argument, and he finally admitted he'd been seeing someone else. His eyes looked all sad and puppy-like, but I just took a deep breath and told him to leave. It was done. A week later, I got this package at my door. It had a framed photo of us at our wedding with a note saying, "I'm sorry." I just laughed. I decided to send the photo back with a note saying, "Goodbye." Edit. My sister and I have always been close. She was just trying to look out for me with the comments at dinner. And she knew about the issues in our marriage from me, not her boyfriend. My husband and I had an open marriage, but he didn't know I was aware of the relationship. The messages were from someone he had been seeing for about 6 months, but the relationship had not been physical. He swore he was going to end it, but I didn't want to hear any of it. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.